Sorry, I was just leaving a voicemail for a coworker. So grab your popcorn, folks, and top it with your favorite exotic butters. Today, we're going over the evolution of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, starting with FNAF 1. Since the very beginning, Five Nights at Freddy's has been developed by the auteur known as Scott Cawthon, and the first game released on July 24th, 2014. Wait, Dan, FNAF is 5 years old already? Man, it's like the target audience is almost in high school by now. Now, unlike the lore, the premise is simple. You play as a night guardsman at Freddy FAZBEAR'S Pizzeria, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike where fantasy and fun come to life. Yes, fantasy and fun, also known as horrifying animatronics creeping around at night, trying to stuff the player into an unoccupied, empty animatronic suit, thus mangling their bodies. The objective of the game is to survive the night. Until the clock reaches the sweet, sweet sunrise of 6 a.m., you have to fend off said animatronics from entering the office and killing you. The game introduces 5 animatronics: Freddy Fazbear, Chica, Bonnie, Foxy, and Golden Freddy, each with their own unique ways to sneak into the security office. Foxy's is, without a doubt, the scariest. The tools used for survival are limited, to say the least. See, you cycle through a variety of cameras to keep an eye on the animatronics, and spotting them throughout the pizzeria can help keep some at bay. Back in the office, you have control over 2 hall lights and 2 doors on each side of the office. When an animatronic is right outside, you can use the light to see them and shut the doors in their face. Sounds pretty easy, right? Unfortunately, Freddy seems to have a bit of a budget issue, as the cameras, lights, and doors all drain your very limited power supply. If an animatronic slips past your security or you run out of power, it's game over. And unlike most games, there's an actual real-world consequence for losing. A truly horrifying jump scare. Every moment of gameplay is extremely tense, and the reason why I'm constantly buying new pants. The game is a masterclass in simplicity, which really works to its horrific favor. In general, the backgrounds and environments are static, so the little motion that you do encounter is all the more shocking and jarring. But the atmosphere and jump scares only grew from there. FNAF 2. So, the first FNAF was insanely successful, and the follow-up, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, was released shortly after on November 10th, 2014. The premise is similar. Night guard in a Freddy Fazbear location must survive the nights as they're being attacked by a variety of animatronics. Classic ghouls of the first game are back, though in withered forms. They've certainly seen better days, even though this game takes place before FNAF 1, so they weren't scrapped yet, but okay, look, the timeline's already really confusing and I already covered it, okay? This game shows off how large these monstrosities are when they creep into the office, but this time, they're not alone. They're joined by their toy counterparts: beakless Toy Chica, Toy Bonnie, Toy Freddy, and Mangle, acting as Toy Foxy. These smiling, shiny bastards are deceptively adorable, and were actually created as monitoring security systems. We also get to meet everyone's favorite character, Balloon Boy. Oh, BB, how I hate you so much. And the fun doesn't stop there. We also have the most terrifying animatronic yet, the Phantom-like puppet. So now we're dealing with double the monsters, but that wasn't enough variety for Mr. Cawthon. With FNAF 2, he says, hey, how about I take away the doors? The main way to defend yourself. That's right. FNAF 2's security office is anything but secure. Basically, you're positioned at the end of a long hallway, sandwiched right between 2 empty vents. Joy. You can still keep some animatronics at bay by keeping an eye on them through the many cameras, and this time, you're equipped with 2 new tools. First, you can use a flashlight to freeze the monsters in their tracks, but its power is again limited. I guess the budget has been further slashed. You can also wear a Freddy mask to disguise yourself. Some of these here animatronics aren't too bright, so they'll think you're part of the exclusive club. It would be great to just hide under this mask the whole time, but unfortunately, the puppet is extremely needy. The player needs to constantly keep this gangly satisfied by manually winding his or her music box, or else they'll beeline right to your location. FNAF 2 also introduced the iconic 8-bit minigames that really expanded the lore. FNAF 2 is really quite the sequel. It introduces all of these new threats and mechanics, but still keeps the game balanced. It's certainly a step up in difficulty, so how many animatronics would Scott add for the third title? Let's find out in FNAF 3. Well, Scott must have been a fan of the Alien franchise, like me. Because when Five Nights at Freddy's 3 dropped on March 2nd, 2015, it only had 1 animatronic. At least it's the most terrifying one. Good ol' Willie Afton, aka Springtrap, aka Spring Bonnie, is lurking through FAZBEAR'S Fright Fest, and it's up to you to protect yourself from becoming his first adult victim. But this doesn't make the game any easier. Once again, you need to keep track of Springtrap using the now 15 closed-circuit cameras. But this time, your office is well lit. So you have to lure Springtrap away from the office using little audio cues of laughing children. Springtrap just can't resist that sweet, sweet temptation of innocence. So damn disturbing. Additionally, you have the power to block off certain sections of the ventilation system, halting Old Springy in his tracks. FNAF 3 is set in 2023, so the power doesn't gradually deplete anymore. Instead, audio, camera, and ventilation systems periodically shut down, and you must reboot them manually. It takes precious time and gives Afton the perfect opportunity to sneak into the office, so you have to be very careful. At least his jump scare isn't too terrifying. He kind of just takes a slow step towards the camera. But don't worry, there's still plenty to worry about. Phantom versions of the animatronics from the previous games show up to jump scare you out of nowhere. It doesn't kill you, but it does cause your character to panic and shuts down a system. So now the jump scares are no longer a punishment, they just happen, and you're tested to keep your cool somehow. Scott kept the dynamic gameplay of the first two titles with only one truly horrifying threat. It was initially supposed to be the end of the series, wrapping things up in a nice, neat trilogy bow. But then he decided to create the final chapter. FNAF 4, The Final Chapter, pulled a Friday the 13th, prematurely claiming to wrap up the series, again, when it came out on July 23rd, 2015. And Scott truly wanted to go out with a that's the only one, guys. I promise. Getting away from a security office, FNAF 4 takes place in a little room in a cozy house. Kinda like the one you're sitting in right now. And instead of being a coveted professional security guard earning fat stacks, you're stuck in the body of a small child. Just like you are now. Just to, you know, add to your vulnerability. So I guess the animatronics weren't terrifying enough for Scott, because our friends Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Freddy are back, though this time in horrifying nightmare form, complete with razor-sharp teeth and soul-piercing evil eyes. The final challenge is a shadowy Freddy known simply as Nightmare. Oh, and there's also adorable mini Freddys chilling on your bed. A later Halloween update also added Nightmare Mangle, the Nightmarionette, and Nightmare Boy, though we still never really got the answer we were really looking for with said update. What's in the box? Gameplay-wise, it was time to finally ditch the cameras. A bold move considering that the camera monitoring was the focal point of the previous titles. Instead, you need to run between your bed, two doors, and a closet, with a flashlight as your only tool. You need to know when to open a door, or keep it closed, when to shine or turn off your flashlight, and when to dash across the room. Without cameras, sharp audio perception is key in FNAF 4. You need to be able to hear when a nightmare is lurking right outside your room. So if you, like me, turn the sound down to soften the jump scare effect, Scott's 300 IQ has you bested. There's also the plush trap minigame where you have to perfectly time shining a light on a miniature spring trap who only moves when you're not looking. These games really want to scar those of us who still enjoy playing with toys. FNAF World. So, FNAF World came out on January 21st, 2016. It's the combination of classic JRPG, FNAF, and terrible design and gameplay everyone was asking for. Moving on to Sister Location. On October 7th, 2016, Sister Location was released, continuing the spooks and scares of FNAF despite the closure that Scott clearly gave us in previous entries. We have a gambit of new circus-themed animatronics this time around, led by the sweet voice of Circus Baby. Other main, featured animatronics include Ballora, Funtime Foxy, and Funtime Fredbear, with some assistance from some pint-sized horrors like Biddy Bab. Truly a fun time, let me tell ya. It gets even better when the animatronics combine forces to create Ennard. So, previous FNAF entries have the same basic gameplay for each level/night that progressively ramped in difficulty as the nights went on. Night 1 is pretty tame, Night 5 is super hard, Night 6 is nearly impossible. The steep difficulty curve is in Sister Location, but this time around, there's a heavy amount of variety from night to night. One night you'll be hiding from Biddy Bab under a desk, another night you'll be fending off mini arenas inside a spring-locked suit, another night you'll be slowly traversing through the darkness, equipped with only a flashlight as you're stalked by Funtime Foxy. It's extremely impressive and bold that Scott decided to experiment with so many new variations on the FNAF formula. But don't you worry. After finding a secret room on Night 5, Sister Location gives you the classic FNAF 1 frantic camera switching experience as Ennard hunts you down. I'll garnish like poetry so that, they rhyme. It all comes full circle. The presentation became more polished as the series went on, and Sister Location ends each night with a fun cutscene. After a stressful night at work, your character munches popcorn while getting caught up on the immortal and the restless. After Sister Location, it's time for a break from horrifying pizzeria locations. So Scott made one that's a little more friendly. Freddy FAZBEAR'S Pizzeria Simulator. Pizzeria Simulator is just that, a simulator. Well, at first. Released on December 4th, 2017, the 6th real FNAF game starts out innocently enough. You design your own pizzeria, complete with a stage, off-brand animatronics, and games for the kiddies to enjoy. You have to manage your budget, overall restaurant appeal, and of course, liability. Because the only thing more terrifying than killer animatronics is a lawsuit. Unfortunately, you're forced to burn the candle at both ends as you work the night away, ordering supplies, printing advertising, unclogging toilets, and completing other busy work before you can leave home for the night. That wouldn't be too much of a problem if it wasn't for mysteriously arriving animatronics. They show up outside every night and they need to be salvaged one by one. This time around, we have Molten Freddy, Scrap Baby, Scrap Trap, and Lefty. Instead of beating out the clock and making it to morning, you simply need to accomplish your tasks before clocking out. Of course, the technology is outdated, so it makes for some tense waiting. You have to manage the noise level and temperature of your security office so that you don't attract the salvaged monstrosities. Darn noisy fan. And all you have are a flashlight for the vents, a motion detector, and some distracting audio cues. Good luck! Pizzeria Simulator shows just how difficult being a franchise owner can be in the cutthroat, jump scare world of business. Outside of the main game, there's a variety of different gameplay and game modes showcased. For example, you can test the different salvaged animatronics through audio cues while keeping them at arm's length with controlled shocks. And the purchased arcade games like Fruity Maze create a wealth of fun and no disturbing imagery at all, I promise you. Overall, there's all sorts of things to do and ways to play Pizzeria Simulator. Not quite as many as the next title, Ultimate Custom Night. They're all here. Released on June 27th, 2018, Ultimate Custom Night is the perfect culmination of the past 6 titles. 50, that's right, 50, though actually it's 61, animatronics from the series are back in the Ultimate Best of compilation. Their difficulty can be adjusted from 1 to 20, and instead of surviving 5 or 6 nights, the objective is to simply survive the one night and achieve a high score. This time, the torture intensity is in your hands. Every animatronic is back, from the withered, to the toy, to the nightmare varieties. Additionally, previously harmless animatronics found in Pizzeria Simulator are back and actually able to kill you. This includes the Rockstar animatronics, Orville, Pig Patch, everyone's favorite yarn weaver Mr. Hippo, everyone. Even Candy Cadet shows up in the background. All day, every day. Candy, candy, candy. The gameplay is also an ultimate amalgamation of all previous titles. Once again, energy management is the name of the game, and you'll need to constantly be checking doors and lights, watching the cameras, managing vents, winding up that old music box, keeping the noise level low, wearing the Freddy mask as a disguise. It's really, really overwhelming. Well, you know, if you customize it that way at least. To help make things slightly easier, you can spend Faz coins at the prize corner to mitigate the effects of certain animatronics. Even better, a single death coin completely eliminates a hostile animatronic. Only 49 to go, so how could things get any more intense than an Ultimate Custom Night? FNAF VR, help wanted. I'm sorry I asked. FNAF VR Help Wanted, released on May 28th, 2019, is one of the most genius uses of VR yet. And by genius, I mean like mad scientist genius. It's basically what the title suggests, a VR version of FNAF with nearly full remakes of the first 3 titles. Only this time, there's no looking away from the screen, no couch cushions to hide behind. There's no escape. As if that weren't enough bang for your buck, Help Wanted also has a bounty of side and minigames, like the Darkroom games. They're a lot like FNAF 4's Plush Trap minigame and the Funtime Foxy's Night in Sister Location. You have to use flashlights, light flashes, and audio cues to survive. In parts and services, you must repair salvaged animatronics a la Pizzeria Simulator. Vent repair pits you against Mangle and Ennard in a tense claustrophobic maintenance nightmare, and in Night Terrors, you have to carefully focus on audio to protect yourself against creatures lurking on the other side of a door, just like FNAF 4. We even get a couple of new monsters in Help Wanted with Plush Baby and the nefarious Glitch Trap. And yes, the biggest evolution is indeed the virtual reality. Not everyone is an early adopter, but if you can experience this horror in VR, just trust me, it's as heart-stopping as you think. Didn't like the video? Let's fix that with a controlled shock. Unless, of course, you subscribe or like the video. Where the hell do you think Scott will take the series next? The movie's around the corner, but we all know Mr. Coffin can probably churn out 8 more games before its release. Augmented reality. Freddy himself in my own apartment. Dear God. Subscribe to avoid that fate.